Great week for me, buddy.
All right.
Great week for me.
We're recording. Okay, so we're back. Excuse the echo. I am in Houston right now. I'm visiting my college roommate. I'm using his wife's office, very contained space to podcast. What's going on with you, James? Like you said, you've had a big week. Your Eagles are Super Bowl champs once again. I'm sure you've been on top of the world all week.
Yeah, I mean, not only are they champs, so I'm very happy, but I called it.
You did
on film. We'll get into all that, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would be a blowout.
Neither did I, but can I give my initial reaction that isn't necessarily about the game, but kind of a takeaway from the game and what that'll mean moving forward is I think it might be 20 years before we get another team where they're I don't know, man, they're just inevitable. I think that game showed no, if you go punch someone in the mouth in a football game, you can beat absolutely anyone. The best team I've ever seen in my life lost that way to the Giants and the 07 Patriots, and the three-peat Chiefs lost the same way. So I think that's a good thing for the sport. I'm really glad it happened that way. Even out, not necessarily a blowout, but I'm glad that we got back to physical football and how that kind of trumps all, even quarterback play at this point. And I think that's a good thing for the sport.
It was so Philadelphia, since I've been doing podcasting and my blog, Philly has been in 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And every time I have felt that they have controlled the matchup. They had a favorable matchup. I thought that in Super Bowl 52, right, when they beat Brady. I thought they had the favorable matchup. And then a couple of years ago when they played the Chiefs, I thought they had the favorable matchup. And this matchup, I thought they had the favorable matchup. And 2 of those times, I took just the better head coach quarterback. I took the Patriots in 2017. I took the Chiefs this time. The only time I took the Eagles was in 2022, and they lost that game. So the one time I was no, I'm going with the matchup here. I was right. But this game, or I was wrong. But this game reminded me a little bit of the Super Bowl 51 matchup between the Falcons and the Patriots, except without the 28-3 comeback. Yeah. But that throughout that entire 2 weeks leading up to the game, everyone kind of forgot that the Falcons were also in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And it was just very Patriots heavy, the story going into that game. And I was y'all remember that the Falcons are playing this game too, right? And it felt like that this time. Everyone was talking Chiefs. And I was y'all know the Eagles are good and playing in this game too, right?
Yeah, and my comment to that, and I don't blame a single person for doing this because you look way less dumb picking the Chiefs and being wrong than picking the Eagles being wrong. But the analysis leading up to this game was an absolute fucking joke. It was, here's why I think the Eagles are better for 10 minutes. And then at the end, every time, but I'm going to go with Pat and Andy. And it was just, everyone was saying the same thing. And it wasn't even about football. And it really pissed me off. I actually sent, I tried to get on Middle Call show, and I sent him a thing. And I'm yo, you guys are, and this was before the Eagles won the Super Bowl. This was before the NFC Championship game. I'm yo, you guys got to do something besides trying to figure out why they're going to lose every week. Because every week the story would be Jalen didn't do well. Every freaking week, dude. But they kept dominating these games, dude. And it was I knew Jalen had it in there, and I'm one of Jalen's biggest critics, but dude, I'm just glad analysis is going to change a little bit now. I think Jalen winning a Super Bowl like that, though he had a really good supporting cast, of course. I just think it's going to change football a little bit for the better, where maybe teams aren't going to go, I have a shitty team, I'm going to trade 3 first so I can get my quarterback because that's just what you got to do. It's no, you should probably build your lines, and then when you can get a quarterback, you do type deal. I think in a lot of ways it's going to help team building and GMing in this league, and we might get away from being so quarterback centric. Obviously, it'll still be very, very similar, but maybe we take it, dial it back 5% or something.
My response to that is I think the Eagles have changed the way everyone thinks now. I think you're going to see a lot of teams this offseason target trenches.
Yeah.
I think everyone's going to target offensive linemen or defensive linemen because looking at the Eagles, they were dominant. Not as much on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, like you weren't moving against that O-line.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is going to look at that and be like, oh, this is which, spoiler alert, having a great offensive line usually translates well in football.
Yeah. It translates everywhere. Any weather, just anything. I mean, it just does. And we can get into like specifics of the game, but just as far as like, big picture stuff.
I do want to say my biggest takeaway with this game was if you told me before the game that Saquon Barkley would have 57 rushing yards and only 2 yards per attempt.
By the way, me and Artis were talking about this because obviously Artis is a Chiefs fan. If you told me before the game that and Jalen Carter didn't record a stat.
Yeah, wow.
Jalen Carter did not. If you were like, yo, even if you didn't tell me stats, you were just like, we shut down Saquon and Jalen Carter. I'd be like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
You're cooked. And
then not only the Eagles won, but won so convincingly. It was shocking.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what my biggest concern going into the game was I didn't think the Eagles would be able to run the ball. And they really weren't able to.
And it was true. Yeah. Besides Jalen had some very timely and good runs during that game. I mean, he led.
Timely is a really good way of putting it.
Yes, exactly. Because it's not like he was doing, Michael Vick shit out there, but third down, he would get 9 yards when it was 3rd and 7 or something. I mean, he did that a couple times that game. Just kept things alive. He really was I think the best version of what Jalen Hurts can be, 225 passing, another 60, 70 on the ground, no turnover. He did have that turnover, but you know what I mean? That's like a really solid Jalen Hurts game.
Turnover, I was like, okay, this is going to wake up the Chiefs, and it never did.
Same. Right when that happened, I go, oh, okay, this is going to go very similar to last time. And to get into specifics here, one, I could tell you right now, I think the point that I was most correct on the last pod, not to toot my own horn, was the Chiefs don't have the mental advantage on the Eagles that they do on these other teams. I mean, the Eagles have now won 2 out of 3 against them, and you can make a very strong argument that they were about this close to winning 3 out of 3. They don't have
won 3 out of 3.
Also, and what I want to say to that, and maybe I'm wrong, I think that this helps the Ravens and the Bills. I think they go into the next time they play the Chiefs and are like, these guys ain't that tough. They're not that tough. We can beat them. Look what they did. We can beat them. And whether that actually happens or not remains to be seen. But I would not be surprised if one of those teams beats them next year in the playoffs.
Well, I sent you, I went through this week and was going through the track records of every single Super Bowl winner the following year and Super Bowl loser the following year. And I mean, I used to laugh at it. Super Bowl hangover is real.
100%. 100%.
And only 3 times in history has a team lost the Super Bowl and then won the Super Bowl the following year. Only 3 times, and 2 of those were in the 70s.
I seen it with my team. The last 2 Super Bowls they won, the next year they were a joke. I mean, an absolute joke. I mean, last year they won 10 games, but everyone knew they kind of sucked, and then it all fell off the rails. Teams are just tired. I think they kind of feel themselves a little bit from the year before, while other teams are hungry.
Emotion into the Super Bowl.
I agree.
And I think losing, I said that to my dad, and he was like, I would have thought winning the Super Bowl would be more of a hangover than losing it.
No.
I think you're just devastated after losing the Super Bowl.
It is. And I mean, just logically, that makes sense to me. Yeah. That's a lot of football to play to be like, damn, we got to get all the way back there again. I think it's I said this before the NFC Championship game to Artis, and he disagreed with me. I was like, I'd much rather lose in the NFC Championship game than the Super Bowl. I think I can stomach that more. I know that's not a better season, but
speaking for someone who has lost many conference championships in the last 20 years, you might be right.
I just think it's.
I don't know if my psyche could handle losing that many Super Bowls. You know what I mean?
I think it makes you.
Had gotten to however many NFC championships we got to with Rodgers and won those and got to the Super Bowl but lost all of those, 4 or 5. I would have been devastated.
It's worse. I don't care. And maybe if you've never been to one or something like that, it's wrong. The Lions or something. I'm sure they'd rather go to the Super Bowl and lose. But for like mildly successful franchises like the Eagles and the Packers, like, dude, I get the hurt out of the way. A couple other things I wanted to say. The Chiefs have a lot of work to do. They don't have a good O-line. I actually think the center of their O-line might even have gotten a little bit overrated just by being Chiefs. Maybe I'm wrong there. It's not like I study lineman film, but
the
interior of their O-line
is usually very good, but they had to
maybe they had a bad game, but they didn't look that good to me. They were getting beat by Moro Ajomo as a 7th round pick. Like, they were getting beat by like not Jalen Carter multiple times. So I don't know. And then obviously they don't have any good tackles. I mean, their tackles were getting sunned by.
I was thinking this, and I hate to bring this up, but it's the same thing. Argument I kind of heard when the Bengals lost to the Rams. Would you rather have a really good tackle or Xavier Worthy?
Easily a really good tackle.
Yeah.
And I understand.
Jamar Chase. I always pronounce it Jamar, and I was wrong. I've been wrong for years. Like, they don't get to that Super Bowl without him. The Chiefs, I think you still get to that Super Bowl without Xavier Worthy.
I was going to say that, like, I think Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell might be a bad example there because they're both so good. Like, but in hindsight, I think I don't know if just because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase played together in college, I think that kind of has a lot to do with it. But, like, I don't think there's any doubt they would be better with Penei Sewell right now and T. Higgins as their number one, in my opinion. I think they'd be a better team.
Yeah. But, dumb argument, I guess. But I was just thinking that. I'm like, and do you want an undersized? I know he's really fast, but do you want an undersized receiver in a cold weather city like Kansas City, other than like a really good tackle? And it was a really good offensive tackle draft. But that's just something that crossed my mind. They have a lot of work to do. And, I was listening to, I don't know his name. He works at Fox Sports. Bald, kind of a loudmouth. Not
Craig Carton.
Right. What's
Craig
that?
Carton.
Maybe. But he was saying, and I didn't agree with his overall, or the first part of his assessment, which was he didn't have the Chiefs winning their division next year. And I was like, that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
But the second part of his assessment was they might not get back. And again, speaking for someone who watched the team go to a Super Bowl and laughed at anyone.
We'll be back. Yeah.
We'll be back.
Yep. Like, it don't work like that, man.
People saying that now about the Chiefs. I'm like, don't fall for that. I fell for it.
I think sorry to interrupt.
Chiefs, no, I just want to finish my thought.
No, my bad. Go ahead.
I look at the Chiefs, and Kelsey's not getting any older. Andy Reid's getting older. Chris Jones is getting older. You have young players defensively who are now entering like years 3 and 4 of rookie contracts, and you're going to have to start making decisions. O-line is out of sorts kind of right now. It's okay. It's not really that great, though. Like, there's a legitimate chance this is it. This was your last chance with this core. As stupid as that sounds right now, but trust me, I've been in this situation. Like, there's a chance this might have been it.
And, I mean, I've always said, because, I've argued with people, like, how I feel about Tom Brady. And I always said, like, obviously Mahomes can get to that level, but you realize he's going to have to do it with a completely different team over again with a new coach. And it's just, I don't see that happening. Of course it could happen, but, like, I also don't see him playing to 45. I mean, Pat's going to go down maybe 2 all time. He had a really bad game. The O-line got annihilated, but he didn't play well.
He wasn't great.
I mean, I was watching it. I mean, he just I don't think I saw him throw an accurate ball all night. Even a lot of the balls that were caught were kind of, behind, whatever.
I stepped away. I didn't see the second interception. The pick to Cooper DeJean, I was like, what are you looking at, man?
He didn't see him. I mean, he really didn't see him. God, that was electric, by the way. Like, that was easily the high point of the game.
When he was in the middle of returning that, the words were coming up through my throat, and as soon as he crossed the goal line, I said, I think that's ball game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
and honestly, that in hindsight, that definitely was ball game. Yeah. But I know
say it to the other, though.
I can tell you right now, and this was obviously ball game because I think after this it was 34-0. But that when they went deep instead of just running the ball at the end of the third for that final touchdown, that's when I don't know. It didn't even feel real because, like, the game literally was over at the end of the third quarter. And, like, it was just like, damn,
I
like
kept hanging around a little bit because 24-0 still a 3-score game.
no, exactly.
But then when Jake Elliott hit that field goal, make it was it 27-0?
Yeah.
I was like, that's it.
But
They're not coming back from 4 possessions.
yeah, so the offense is all coming back. So I mean, except Mekhi Becton, and we already have a guard we've had. So I mean, the offense should be good next year. New OC. The defense is definitely.
I do want to touch up on this. Did you think the Chiefs looked like a team that just thought they would show up and win because of that?
So that was another point I was trying. I forgot to get into earlier when I was talking about how I don't think they had the mental edge on the Eagles like they do on a lot of the AFC teams. They clearly didn't show up to play like it was the Super Bowl. I'm gonna tell you right now, in my opinion, what happened. They got spoiled by those wins that they were just pulling out of their ass all season, and they were just like, "Bro, we just always find a way."
That's it right there.
They were like, "Fuck it, we'll find a way."
We're gonna do our thing. We're gonna show up and we're gonna win.
Yep.
And Philadelphia, blue collar city, just said, "Nope, we're gonna punch you in the mouth," and that's exactly what they did.
I'm telling you, and you could just tell there was a couple, plays by Travis Kelce where he didn't get out of his stance for like 2 seconds, and it's like you're not going to tell me he's so washed that he got out of his stance that late. He's just not there, man. Like I think they thought they were going to win that shit, and didn't really like have to show up to do it. They could show up 80% and do it, and. You see, dude, I mean, anybody knows, like, that's how football is. I don't care what. You could be the number one team. Like, if you just think you're going to beat someone and they're, like, not afraid of you, you could easily lose that game, and that's what happened. So,
as I said to my boss, I think that was more like Philadelphia just it being their night. Play that game again.
It doesn't happen that way.
Different, yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't Kansas City night. It was Philadelphia's night. I think that sums up the game really well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm so the cool thing about like a Super Bowl is like a lot of your players that you love on your team, like they're just legends forever now, which is so cool. Like AJ Brown, legend forever, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Devontae, Saquon, like they're all just like Eagles legends forever. Which
what's funny? I went back at my blog, and I do this thing every year where after the first 4 to 6 weeks of the NFL, I do a stock report. And I'm like, buy stock in this team, buy stock in this team. And like, there are the easy ones, like Kansas City was one. I was like, buy stock, Baltimore, Buffalo. There were a few others. Philly was a team that wasn't in that group. So I do it for all 32 teams. There's the buy now, there's the on the fence, and then there's the sell immediately. And Philly was in the middle. And I did
at that time they were.
I did say buy, but you got to remember, this was like after week 6, and they weren't looking too hot.
Exactly.
They were starting to.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm not giving up on this team. The NFC East is wide open. I was like, but it hasn't looked great so far, or whatever. And I was like, man, like, talk about getting hot immediately after that.
Yep.
And it was just funny. Usually I would have to go back and look at previous years, but I would imagine the Super Bowl champ has come every year from that, top tier, and Philly was in the middle tier. Just interesting how that went. You got any other thoughts? I feel like we've talked mostly about the Chiefs. We should probably have touched up more on the Eagles.
Yeah, I just because I feel like I had to counter all the media bullshit from the last 2 weeks where it was all Chiefs. I mean, first of all, I did expect them to win, and I kind of told you, I was like, listen, if it's close, I do think the Chiefs will win, but I think there's a good chance the Eagles win by double digits. I said 10. But, I wasn't saying they were going to win by 4 touchdowns or whatever, but I was just like, dude, if they get rolling and they can get after the quarterback, they have shitty tackles. That was my thought. They have bad tackles, and if they have to pass a lot, they never tried to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball, but they didn't even try to make us honest with it. The pass rush rotation they had going, it was just everyone was getting they couldn't block anyone. That's what I was saying. People like Morrow and Jomo, and dude, Jalix Hunt was a safety at Cornell 2 years ago, and now he's like a rotational DN. And he was getting sacks in that game. Cooper it really was a beautiful mix of everyone was blanketed and they were getting pressure, so they really couldn't even get yards.
That wasn't the one area of the game I felt a little confident in with Philly. I was like, I think their secondary can clamp down on these two receivers. I didn't really buy the pass rush. I was obviously wrong about that.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, I mean, they did shut down Saquon. My whole thing, I was just like, dude, like you can't you can definitely slow down a running game, but you can't shut down a running game. Like they're gonna block you and get 4 or 5 yards, and that didn't happen. I will give them that. They did shut him down, but then you were just giving 1-on-1s to AJ. But like he's beating anyone.
Jalen Hurts made the throws. I got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, and he did. And Jalen is good at like 3 or 4. First of all, he has a great deep ball. He just does. You know who he reminds me of right now, except way better, way more likable of his teammates, because obviously people is Russ Wilson. Early on, like an athlete, but wasn't like I'm gonna run for 120 yards athlete. Great deep ball, not great over the middle, but great to the sidelines. Like I feel like they have a very similar career, and hopefully he can kind of turn it up how like Russ did in his late 20s. And I think the Eagles are in good shape. I talked a lot of shit on Jalen Hurts, man. I gotta give him his flowers. He's unorthodox for what we see in the league now, but the way I look at it is like the quarterback's job is to take those 11 guys past the goal line, and he is very good at that, just not necessarily in the way that we typically see it by top quarterbacks. I'm glad he's finally going to get his respect. I'm glad that it's not just going to be like everyone on Joe Burrow's dick because he's the one who beat Mahomes in the playoffs. Like, no, Jalen did it now too, and give him his flowers. And Jalen's outplayed him multiple times. That's now 3 games in a row that Jalen has had a better game, eye test, and stat line than Pat.
He's risen to the occasion in both Super Bowls.
Yeah, man. I just think I think I overlooked it because he does do some dumb stuff. But now when I'm looking back, like a lot of those dumb sacks that he took, it's very clear during that bye week, because like pre-bye week and post-bye week was when the team completely turned around. They were just like, do not throw a single interception. Take the sack, we'll punt it. People aren't scoring on us. Look at our points per game. And like he stopped throwing interceptions, and we won every game after that, basically. The game knocked out, they lost. But like basically they were just like, dude, you could have 130 yards a game. We'll hand it off to Saquon and not turn the ball over, and we'll be the 1 or 2 seed. And I think that's what happened.
Did they win 16 of their last 17 games?
Yeah, and the one that he lost, he got knocked out.
That's incredible. Yeah, he did. Yeah. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. I do think I think that's not like a top 5 all-time team, but I think that's like a top 10 all-time team, like roster-wise, ever. I really do.
Possibly. I would have to go through.
And we'll have to see, like, after careers, who ends up going to, like, the Hall of Fame type shit. Because, like, I don't even know if they have any Hall of Famers on their defense right now. Maybe Jalen Carter in the future.
I was going to say Lane Johnson. But...
Oh, well, no. I think we have a lot of Hall of Famers on our offense.
Yeah.
I think Mailata has a chance because he's only, like, 27, and he's probably now the best left tackle in the league, top 2 or 3. Saquon has a chance now if he can just string together. And I think AJ has a chance.
Yep. I'm really happy for Jalen Hurts. I've always liked him. Dude is
a great dude.
He's such a professional. I mean, even in Alabama, getting benched in the middle of a title game, getting benched for Tua Tagovailoa, transferring to Oklahoma, like he's such an adult.
Is there a cooler guy on the whole planet? He's the coolest guy of all time.
Why does he always? He looks like the coolest black dude in a movie
ever.
From the 80s.
Yes, I know. It's so sick. It's so sick. And like, dude, he's only 26. Like, he's a psychopath. Like, 26-year-olds don't act like that. Like, he's nuts for real.
I've always really liked Jalen. I've liked him as a person. I remember, honestly, the year they drafted Jordan Love. Green Bay was linked to him, and I really didn't want him because I wasn't impressed with him as a player, but I liked him as a person. But I've been a defender of his for a while. I don't understand the hate. I saw so many people saying, like, I can't believe Jalen Hurts has been to more conference or Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers, which I get, but I was like, can we stop acting like Jalen Hurts is some scrub?
No, dude, that was my whole point, because like I said, I shit on Jalen Hurts all the time. You've seen my text during Eagles games. Like, I give him a lot of shit, but like, they were literally acting like before the Commanders game.
Yes.
Well, they didn't really do it after that because we put up 55, but like, they were acting like Jalen Hurts could not complete a pass. It was insane. They were like, well, they're going to stack the box on Saquon and they're just going to win. And it was like, they have a terrible defense. And you just don't think like Jalen's went off on the Commanders multiple times. It was just it was crazy. And I think if they wanted to have a less efficient offense, he could throw for like 27 touchdowns, 4,100 yards. But like, why? It's really not that important.
It's a
I think
very balanced offense.
Yeah, I'm going to learn to appreciate him next year and like really, try not to like hang on a play-to-play basis because obviously on a play-to-play basis, he's not Lamar, he's not Josh, he's not Pat, he's not even a Herbert or something. But like on a season-to-season basis, I mean, he does what he needs to do, and I love him for it. And he'll probably get a statue in Philly, so it's pretty cool.
So we talked about it a little bit with the Chiefs. Where does Philly go from here?
Oh, and one more thing, and I'm fucking sick of this shit. Give Nick Sirianni his credit.
I do.
Dude,
I have to.
Because people always like Jalen, and like, don't get me wrong, but like people are always, oh, Jalen's a good leader, blah, 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 but his passing leaves something to be desired. They were talking about Nick Sirianni like he was the village idiot. Village idiot, man. I mean, calling him out of his name, like a dumbass, a dipshit, like saying that on national TV about this guy. Give him his flowers. He's a fantastic coach. I would give him like maybe a C+ Sunday coach, A++ Monday through Saturday coach. All our team's always healthy. They're always ready to play. We're not super penalized. We're always buttoned up. There's a lot of noise that he keeps under wraps. I
can't imagine we got to this point. Like, I remember in the preseason, the story that Jalen Hurts and Sirianni don't talk to each other. Yep. And here we are. They're both Super Bowl champions. Just incredible story. Sirianni, I mean, he's kind of a weird guy. I think he's good for Philly. I think he gets in his own way sometimes with some of his decision-making. Do I think his assistant coaches elevate him a little bit? But I think you're seeing, like he is a good coach. He is a good coach.
Exactly.
And
I'm not saying he's elite.
Sirianni defender. You don't go to 2 Super Bowls if you're
Exactly. And that's all I was saying. Like, I don't think he can be elite, and maybe he develops into a guy that ends up calling plays. He's still like 42 years old or something. Like, he has a lot way to go, but like that'll leave something to be desired. But like, dude, I'm sorry. Stop saying that this guy's better than him because he can call plays on Sunday. Like, your team sucks. I don't give a shit. Your team's poorly coached. Like, so whatever. That's
like you said, they're always buttoned up. They are prepared. They very rarely get their asses kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was something else I was going to say. Very few penalties. They usually are not very penalized, at least this year.
So yeah, with all that. As far as where they go from here, like I was saying, the offense is mostly going to come back. I do think egos start to come out after Super Bowls. I think they're going to run the ball less next year and pass a little bit more, which will cause some strife and some drama in Philly. I see that coming. Don't give a shit. We won the Super Bowl this year. Defense, there's going to be a lot of shuffling. They're going to re-sign Zach Bond. He's just going to come back. They might lose everyone else. They will re-sign Zach Bond. Darius Slay is probably going to be gone. Milton Williams is probably going to be gone, and Josh Sweat is definitely going to be gone. So we have some retooling to do. We do have some young guys on the line that can kind of fill in, but we got to fill that back in. People are talking about Myles Garrett. 1% chance tops he's going to Philly. That's not happening.
That's a move Howie Roseman would make. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Let me put it this way: if they're willing to trade 2 firsts, which I really don't think they would be, like, you don't think another team that doesn't have the 32nd pick is going to go, I'll match that, and it's a way better pick. Like,
I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to touch up on the Myles Garrett news.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets dealt.
You don't?
Prove me wrong. I just don't see it.
I think it's pretty much a guarantee. I think if this was like 2007, like, I would agree with you because I think but I do think like he's like, yo, like, I've given you some good years. Like, I don't want to rot here. Like, please trade. I think it's more of almost like a Matt Stafford type of thing as opposed to like, I fucking hate you guys. Like, get me out of here. It's just like, yo, like, we're not doing anything. Obviously, we're like, what are they? The 3rd pick. Don't see how we get better with Deshaun Watson's contract. Like, please let me go somewhere and win some games. So that's how I look at it. I do think he leaves. He's going to go to the NFC somewhere. I think the Bills
see them trading for him to an AFC team.
Me neither, but I could see the Bills or something overpaying because they I think that could be the thing, because of the Eagles, yo, this is how we're going to beat the Chiefs type deal. But I agree. I think he's probably going to go to the Lions or the Commanders, which I don't like, but that's where I see him going.
I could see the Commanders.
They just have money.
That's tough because they are going to have to pay Aiden Hutchinson pretty much this offseason. That's going to tighten up the pocketbook.
They got a lot of guys to pay, don't they?
Yeah, and they're already paying Goff. They're already paying St. Brown. The bill has come due for them. This is why, this year was kind of their chance.
Dude, it was. That's why Ben Johnson
stayed. Last year, this was their chance, and it's gone. And I'm not saying it's gone forever. I said the Niners last year, but this
we were just talking about. You have a 2 to 4 year window with your good team, and then it's you don't have to rebuild, but you're gonna have a down year, and then maybe you can come back.
It's gonna be shuffling around, and then hopefully your front office is good enough to make up for the players that you lose.
They remind me of those late teen Saints, where it was impossibly good teams, stacked roster, and they just didn't get it done, and they just haven't even been close to getting back since that window closed. I could see that happening.
I could too. And they're now losing both coordinators. I think the Commanders make most sense for.
They have the money.
Myles Garrett. They have the money. They have the assets to do it.
Now, this is the thing I could see though. Their defense is so bad that it's are we really going to trade that many assets, cheap labor assets for one player that let's be honest, dude. That's not going to fix that defense. Their defense was horrible. It will be a great player, and it will help it for sure. But you're not going to go from the 30th ranked defense to the 9th ranked defense because you got Myles Garrett. You're going to need to do a lot more shit. So, but I would do it. So I don't know.
Well, where else could he go?
Well, it's I could see the Lions
the Lions
again
could
all in. Let's just all in for this year. We'll worry about all the cap shit later. Fuck it. We'll get rid of Jared Goff in a couple years type deal. Maybe that's their mindset. He's going to leave.
I'm going to throw my team out there, even though I think there's a.
No, people talk about the Packers. Yeah. That's just such an un-Packers thing to do.
It is. It's
such an un-Packers thing to do.
They got Reggie White, and I've seen a lot of Packers fans saying, Brian Gutekunst, this is your Reggie White. They're not wrong. They're not wrong.
I agree, dude. I like that, actually.
Reggie White was a free agent. Myles Garrett's not. You're going to have to trade for him, and is Green Bay, a very traditional organization, willing to part with premium draft picks to do it?
No offense, dude. It's not like you guys have been first round world beaters. You guys have been making your hay second through 5th round for the last few years, which you're amazing at. So it's Lucas Van Ness, or that's his name, Van Ness, and who was Morgan, the tackle. It's they might end up being good players, but would you trade those two players for Myles Garrett? I would.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Van Ness, yes. I'm not willing to move on from Jordan Morgan yet.
I wasn't even saying they were bad players. It was just more I know Myles Garrett would help you week one this year.
If the deal is a first and Van Ness, no second first, a future first, I would make that deal in a heartbeat.
Yeah, of course.
But
so we'll see.
That's me. But to quote Aaron Nagler, who's a beat writer for the Packers, if I was GM of the team, I would run the team into the ground because I would want to re-sign everyone and trade for everybody. So
me too.
That's me. I just don't see it happening. Green Bay is just they don't make moves like that. They might call, but they usually don't. And whether you want to criticize it or not, it works for them.
Does Myles Garrett have a no trade clause?
I have no idea.
I would assume he does. Don't elite players pretty much always get one?
I know quarterbacks usually do. I don't know about.
Because I was wondering, I'm sure there's some teams that would give the farm up for him that he would be I'm not going there.
I'm trying to think of other NFC teams. Dallas came to mind, but I don't.
No, they were talking about that. Dude, Jerry is liable to do anything at this point. I think he's spiraling. I swear to God. I could see them getting Devontae Adams
coming out of college. Trying to think of others. I don't know. I feel like it feels Green Bay, Washington, Buffalo feel like the most likely three right now.
I agree.
But it's always going to be a team that like comes out of nowhere and makes that deal.
Like the Falcons or something?
Yes,
Like it's
yes.
yeah.
Either the Falcons or like the Cardinals will
Yeah.
swoop in, and you're just like, where'd this come from?
Or you know who loves to give up all their fucking picks is the
I was
Rams.
thinking the Rams. But they have a pretty good defensive front with
I
defensive
agree.
young guys. I don't think
I
they're
agree.
going to that up. Yeah, it's going to be someone else. Speaking of players not staying with their current team, let's talk Aaron Rodgers.
Dude, I don't know where he fits, man.
I don't either. So Jets aren't bringing him back. I'm not that surprised, but I thought they would probably bring him back. So
did I. Just
because I was like, what options do you have?
Yeah. Unless I don't know, man. It might have been conditional for Aaron Glenn to just be like, listen, man, I would love this job, but I'm not doing it with him. Because Aaron Glenn is like a no-nonsense kind of guy. I'm sure he was just like, dude, I'm not dealing with this guy, man.
And I took it as hiring, because usually like defensive-minded head coaches don't want to deal with a rookie quarterback, because then that's their shot. And you attach them to a rookie, and it usually just doesn't work out. But they're moving on. I'm not, like I said, I'm not surprised, but like it was time to move on. Like that was a disaster. As we said it would be. Where do both parties go from here? Because I don't think, like, the Jets are saying, like, bring back Sam Darnold. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm the San Francisco 49ers, I'm signing Aaron Rodgers, and I'm putting Brock Purdy's ass on the bench, and I'm be like, yeah, like, I'll pay you whatever you get.
That's an underrated.
No one brought that up. And you want to know why? I think that's the one offense that he would be completely fine in. He would the way he plays, he would be completely fine there. A bunch of these really quick, accurate passes, big run game, play action, like he would excel there, in my opinion. And they don't want to. I think that's a perfect way to, like, this is some scumbag shit, but to like kind of get out of Brock Purdy's $55 million contract a year he's about to get, which is they're done. Like 49ers are cooked.
I saw Cowherd say basically a swap. Kind of a swap. So Rams get Rodgers. Giants, I know Rodgers isn't on the Giants, but the Giants get Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
I could see it. It seems like the Rams are kind of tired of Stafford. He's kind of gone.
But, like, how are you going to get rid of Stafford for Rodgers? It's like
Rodgers is a free agent. I think their mindset is just trade him to, like, the Giants, who I'm not sure want to draft a quarterback. I think they want a veteran.
That would be insane. Like, I hope the Giants get Matt Stafford, because then they'll win like 8 games and then be terrible again in 2 years and be right back where they started. So that would tickle me.
But for teams, legitimate teams for Rodgers, because I think the Niners are a pipe dream. Not sure they have the money to get him. I'm not convinced the Rams move on from Matthew Stafford.
Obviously, places like Las Vegas and Pittsburgh, but like, no, it doesn't make sense.
I think it's Pittsburgh. I could see that. He really likes Mike Tomlin.
Why?
He really likes Mike Tomlin.
No, I'm not saying for him. I'm saying for the Steelers. I get why he would go there. Like, yeah, you can go play for the Steelers.
Think about it. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are both free agents. Neither were that good.
No, I get on paper why it makes sense. I'm just saying, like, what, dude? You guys just want another 10-win season where you get fucking bounced first round? Like, is that the business you guys are in? Just do that over and over again and do whatever you can to not lose fucking less than 9 games. Like, it's actually getting to a point where, because I know a bunch of Steelers fans, obviously we went to West Virginia, like, they're getting, like, sick of that.
They are.
They're like, I'll take like a bad year if we can get back to like competing for championships, or even 2 bad years. Like, we've had 10 fucking years of the same thing, and it's like, it's boring.
Too good to get a difference maker in the draft, not good enough to win a championship.
Yes, and they've just and to get a quarterback, it's like, dude, winning championships is like, it takes a lot of building and kind of luck to get there, but it's like, to be competitive, you need a quarterback of some sort, and they don't have one, and they can't get one. They have no shot.
The Raiders is another one I think is likely, because they don't have a quarterback. Pete Carroll, culture builder. They're not really in a position to draft one, like at the 6th pick. They might be able to, but assuming that, Cam Ward goes 1, which I think will happen, and the Giants get Shedeur Sanders at 3, or the 2 quarterbacks go 1 and 2, not impossible, but go in the top 3. I think the Raiders could make a move for Rodgers.
Yeah, why not grab like Rodgers and then grab like a Jackson Dart and just sit
or
behind
Will Johnson.
and just
someone
sit
like
behind
that.
Rodgers for a year. The thing that I could see, like, are Rodgers and Brady like good? Like, I know that they don't like hate each other or anything, but like, would Rodgers go like play under Brady like that? Seriously,
I don't think
he would.
Relationship.
That's
a decent point.
I think that's weird, dude. I think that's weird, dude.
Yeah, that is a little weird. I didn't think.
And I feel like, Rodgers is an all-time player. Like, I think ego would be like, I'm not going to play for Tom Brady. Fuck that.
That's an interesting point. I've never heard anyone bring that up. That's an interesting point. I will say.
That's why I said nothing makes sense to me. Like, I told you why I don't think the Steelers I get on paper, like, they need a bridge quarterback, but like, Rodgers, like, why? Like, I just don't see the upside.
I absolutely think that Rodgers' ego would get. I absolutely think.
Of course. Dude, how could it not? You've made $400 million and you have 4 MVPs. Like, of course, of course it would.
The team that everyone's going to bring up is the Vikings because that's the same arc that Brett Favre had.
Fucking play JJ, dude. Just play JJ. Dude,
here's my counter to that other than JJ McCarthy. Brett Favre, when he left the Packers, it was very bitter. He was not happy that they decided to move on from him for Aaron Rodgers, and the two sides, like WVU and Rich Rodriguez didn't speak for a while. It took years for Favre to get back in like Green Bay's inner circle like he is now. And I don't get that impression with Rodgers. I think he's on a much better terms with Green Bay's front office than Favre was when he left. Like, when Rodgers retires, whenever that is, like, I think it's going to be like the second he retires, it's going to be let's retire his number, have this Aaron Rodgers day in Green Bay.
Of course.
Unlike Favre, where it took almost a decade to get him, his number retired. So that's why I think he has too much respect for Green Bay to do that. However, if that's his only option and he wants to keep playing, I think he'd do it.
Shane, I think the team that makes the most sense is the New York Jets. Like, that's the funniest part. That is the team, and they don't want them. So it's like, I don't know, man. I could see the Steelers because that's just what the Steelers do, man. I could see the Rooneys being like, well, how the hell are we going to be competitive this year? Go get them. Like, I could see that easily.
Well,
but
Rodgers is better than Wilson and Fields.
Why not the Giants?
Yeah. If he likes New York so much.
Draft a quarterback, but then just the Mahomes deal.
That's another team I think no one's really talking about. Is the Giants. Like, the impression I get right now is they don't want to draft a quarterback.
No.
Rodgers, if you want to stay in New York, why not just move down the hall? Because they're literally in the same building.
I think that's a good fit. Like, because they're dying for relevancy at this point. Yes. A lot of teams are like, I'd rather bottom out and go win a Super Bowl. But then a lot of teams that have been really bad for a long time, the Raiders, the Giants, are like, dude, can we win 9 or 10 games, please? Like, I am begging to win 9 or 10 games. Rodgers gives you that.
That's a really good point. And that's an organization, like, everyone's backs are against the wall. Joe Shane's back is against the wall. Brian Daboll's back is against the wall. A rookie quarterback really doesn't solve that. Like, I think you have your quarterback for the next few years. If you still suck in year one with this rookie quarterback, which is likely to happen,
you're gone.
Your GM is fired, head coach is fired, you're starting all over again with the young.
And then everything's out of whack because the new GM might not like the quarterback.
So I think that makes a ton of sense to me. I think that did cross my mind, but then as we were talking, it slipped. But you bringing that up, I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I think that makes the most sense for both sides, in my opinion.
I agree.
And sign Aaron Rodgers. What are the Giants? 7-10, probably at the low point.
I can see them winning 8 games because they have a D-line and they have a couple receivers now. I mean, like, it depends. I think Daboll. It wouldn't
cost you anything or other money. You don't need to give up a first-round pick.
Exactly.
You can use that pick to draft a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter at 3. And all of a sudden, your team looks so much different. You don't need Abdul Carter because you have
I think Travis Hunter
Brian
there.
Burns and the other guy, Thibodeau.
Travis Hunter and Aaron Rodgers could make a lot of sense for the Giants now that we're talking it out like that.
I really like that for the Giants.
Yeah.
So, we got anything else to talk about?
No, I think we just wanted to do some Super Bowl review, which
those are the three topics I really wanted to touch up on. And we're going on for almost.
Let's go. Okay, let's give a top 5 power ranking for next year pre-draft and. Or just give me the top 2 seeds in each division or each conference next year.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the schedules. I'll give an early top 5 or try to. I would probably have Eagles 1. Probably Chiefs 2. I just think that's who you have to put there.
I agree. Ravens.
Probably the Bills 3.
You got to go Lions, Ravens there, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking Ravens at 4, but probably Lions at 4.
Healthy Lions, yeah.
I would say, yeah. Maybe put the Lions 3 and bump the Bills, Ravens.
I was going to say, that's definitely the 5. I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, who else would you put in there? I'm not putting the Packers in there. I'm not putting
Commanders
in there. I think the Rams might be my 6th team. Honorable mention.
I think the Packers are right around there too. I think Packers are 6 or 7. I think you guys will be a lot better next year. You guys had a young team.
Yeah, I know, and I've said this to you before. I think I was too hard on them the last few weeks of the season. It didn't end the way we wanted, like on a bummer of a note.
I mean, you did have a tough matchup too. I mean, not to Eagle.
Well, just those last 3 weeks of the regular season, it was a loss to the Vikings. It was a loss to the Bears in a game nobody really took seriously, even though playoff seeding was on the line, and then a loss to the Eagles in a game we really weren't that competitive in. The Eagles just kind of kept us hanging around.
Yeah.
But then you lose to the Bears, and then you factor in, okay, dude, this makes us 1-5 in the division this year. I know the division's really good, but that's unacceptable.
1-5 is crazy. I didn't know that.
2 losses to the Lions, 2 losses to the Vikings, and a loss to the Bears. That's 1-5.
Damn, you would have won. You would have won 13 games if you just did a little better in division.
Yeah,
just a little better, not even dominated.
And then what? That's 6 losses, all of them in the NFC. 5 in the division, 1 to the Eagles. That's 6. 6-6 in the NFC. That's unacceptable.
That ain't gonna cut it, Shane. Just simply not gonna cut it.
That's why I say it was a bummer way to end the season. But you still, if you told me before the season, Packers won 11 games, I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I can see that. And that was what I had them do in the preseason. But 1-5 in the division is just not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Acceptable. So, do I think they're better than what they should at the end of the season? Yes. I think injuries played a factor. I can't believe how much Christian Watson means to the offense.
I mean, a deep threat is very important.
All of a sudden can't get dudes open.
Yeah.
So they need a home run hitter, whether in free agency or the draft. I don't know. They need someone to take the top off the defense and get other guys open, because that's kind of the way the offense works. You put Christian Watson in there, defense follows him, that opens up Dobbs, Reed, and everyone else, Kraft, and he goes out and nobody can get open. They drop a ton of balls. So I find that hard to believe how much he means to the offense.
Well, it's the off season, buddy. It's draft season, so we'll do a draft here soon.
Yeah, we need to do a mock draft probably next.
I got to study a little bit, so.
It's not a great draft. It's an okay draft, I think. It's an okay draft. It's not great at the top.
It's not quarterback heavy, that's for sure, or tackle heavy.
It's not a quarterback draft for sure.
Yeah.
Man, I'll let you go. Is the Super Bowl parade today?
No, it was yesterday. I had to miss it. My girl's ultrasound. It was yesterday.
Ultrasound. All right.
Yeah, hold on. You ready?
Baby Connolly.
My seed.
Hell yeah. How about that?
It's all my parents tomorrow. So
I did not. You texted me. Was it the day before the Super Bowl?
Maybe a couple days before.
Yeah, I don't remember. But you said, want to hear something crazy? I was like, go for it. I'm always up for something crazy. I'm gonna be a dad. I'm like, whoa.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, should be here in
boy or girl too early?
I'll know in, I think, like 3 weeks. They're gonna let
I
us
figured
know.
it was too early. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. So I'll keep you updated, buddy.
Yep, sounds good.
Later, man.
Later.